This is a video that I'm making in response to some questions about floating. There are a couple of good floating videos out there. There's one by Patty Rawlinson. There's also a new one by Sue Beckerton, and she has a lot of nice tips on there, and so does Patty's. But I'm going to make this one for you to show you some things I do for floating. And we're going to start out with the brushes that you can use. I have a lot of mops here. Let's put those all together. I have a lot of different mops here. You need a soft mop, so while this is a good blender, it's a little stiff, so I don't use it too often with my floating. I use that more with pat blending and scumbling and things. This is a blender mop from DecoArt Traditions, and it's very, very soft, and it's very dense. And it's a great mop, and it comes in a lot of sizes. It comes in 2 smaller sizes than this. These are mops from Ann Kingsland. They're all very soft, and you can get very, very tiny. DecoArt also has some very small mops in their line. They're just like these as well, but this one, to get one this tiny, you got to go to Kingsland. And let's see, this is Sherry Rolls mop, and it's nice. It's a little stiffer, but it does work. It's very well put together, and it's got a lot of body. It works real well. Okay, so these are the mops that I use to soften my floats. To make floats, we can use a lot of different brushes. You can use a filbert. It takes some practice to float with a filbert, but you can do it, and once you get used to it, then that's the brush that you'll probably pick up every time. This is a moon filbert from Scharf, and I like it real well. You see the difference in the shapes. This one is, the Scharf one is wider and shorter, and these are used for a lot of different things, but they can also be floated with. You can float with a round if you wet it. And flatten it out, you can float with a round. I've got kind of a large one here. It's a number 5, but I often use a number 3 round and flatten it out and use it as a small flat to either paint in a small area or to float a small area. And of course, you know, many people float with a flat, and I really like to float with an angle, because the difference is that with an angle, you've got all this extra hair out of the way, and sometimes in tight spaces it's a nice thing to have that out of the way. Okay, I'm going to show you my water basin, and of course you know that the first sign or the mark of a serious artist is to have a really dirty water basin. So I'm a serious artist because my water basin is very dirty. I use this one because it has soft brushes in the middle and it doesn't tear up my brushes. You need good, tight, flat chisel edges to float right. You need good brushes. With brushes, you get what you pay for. You really, really do. Don't go cheap on your brushes. They're your most important tool, and if you go cheap, then you get cheap results. Take the time and the money to invest in good brushes, and in the long run, you will come out saving a lot of money because you will be replacing them a whole lot less often. We use we use a well for first rinsing the paint off, and then this for brushing paint out of the bristles and out of the ferrule. You can knock it and loosen paint, and I always pull in one direction only. I never push, and I really don't do this because it's hard on the edges of your chisel. So if you just kind of lay it flat and draw it in those soft bristles, you can see I need a new one. I've got a new one. I'm just waiting for this one to really just be all the way gone, because they're not made exactly like this anymore. So the one that I have waiting is the last one I'm going to have. So anyway, you want to just pull it towards you, turn it over, and pull it towards you again. Knock it to knock the paint loose on the ferrule. You can splash it around a little bit, but when you pull that against that soft brush, then pull towards yourself in only one direction. And then you want to just take your fingers and pinch wipe it and smooth it to get that flattened chisel edge back. I like these kind because the soft brushes really are nice on your bristles. A lot of you have basins that have hard ridges, and you're just dragging this brush against those hard ridges and really scrubbing them. You're killing your brush when you do that, and that's why a lot of times when your floats don't look right, because your brush is too ragged. So try to invest in some soft brushes, or if you can't find one of these, or if you can't get one of these, then, and you can make your own with a brush that's in a like a soft brush from the paint area of a hardware store. You can find real soft brushes and set it in there or glue it in there. Several of the students in my group have made their own, and then they're really nice. So if you have to use one of those large ridges, please remember, don't scrape your brush against it. Just put it in the water, knock it against the side, or knock it against those ridges, but never drag your brush across them. Okay, and then you want one well for clean water always, because you need clean water for your floats. I'm going to show you several ways of loading. One of the things that's nice when you're doing floats and you're loading is to take, I'm just going to put my fingers in the water, is to take a few drops of water and have them on your palette, so that it's always there for you when you just need a tiny little bit of water. Because sometimes when you dip your brush into your well, into your basin, you get too much. Okay, so the best way that I have ever been taught for how to know when you've got the right amount of water in a brush when you're loading for a float is this. I'm going to dip it in my clean water, I'm going to bring it out, and I'm going to set it on my paper towel, and I'm going to just lay it there until I see the shine go away from the brush. The moment you see that shine go away, your brush has the perfect amount of water in it. Now for loading, let's see, let's use some yellow oxide. I like to put the tip into the paint like this. Get kind of a triangle there. And then I'm going to talk about my palette paper for a second. I'm using gray palette paper. Sometimes I use white, but this is really my favorite, the gray palette paper. The white seems to be a little too waxy, and your floats or your blending beads up. But this gray is quite a bit better, and I get mine at the conventions, and I get about 6 of them, and they last me all year. But this is the brand of palette that it is, and I can, oh, and there's some good stuff on the inside, but I can put you in touch with and give you a website of people who carry this. And this one I think I got from Patty Rawlinson or from Brushes and More, and they both have websites. So okay, I've got this on the corner. I've got the right amount of water, so then I'm going to just set it down and pull it towards me. And you see that my brush bristles are bent, and you also see that I'm only going one direction. You can go both directions, but I usually end up with a little bead, see right there, when I do that. So I really prefer to go one direction. And you only need about an inch long path, blending path, and what this does is work your paint across the brush. So I'm going to come over a little farther each time. Okay, now I've been blending for quite a while here, And if you want to blend the other side, you can also turn it over and go one direction.